What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome back to our Madden 20 ratings prediction series, where we are here in the old times of Madden 19, and we're going to try our best to predict what the rosters could potentially look like in Madden 20. At this point, the low point between Madden 19 and Madden 20 is just about getting the discussion going, start thinking about the new game, and make some claims about what these rosters are going to look like. And by the end of this series, there will be a roster file that will be available for people to convert to PC, to console, and everything in between. If you actually want to use these rosters, or if you're not making the jump from 19 to 20, they will be available to you. And you can see right at the rip, we're doing the Raiders. We're going in order of the draft. So we've already done the Cardinals, Niners, and Jets. So next up is the Raiders, who I think are going to be like the Browns of Madden 20. They're going to be the team that everyone and their dog is going to want to rebuild. And we're starting at the rip with a 99 overall here in Antonio Brown. I don't think they're going to strip away the 99 club stuff, the gear off AB. I kind of broke that down in a video we did last week where I'm trying to guess and predict what the 99 club will look like in Madden 20. I think Antonio Brown will very much be in that club, but how will the rest of the Raiders shape up? Let's check it out. So at quarterback, Derek Carr, I'm giving him an 80. This could be slightly controversial, but I think he's all right, considering the fact 2 years ago he was in the MVP consideration, and he's had some injuries and stuff like that. And look at what he did last year. Even though he was 4-12 as a starter, 4,000 passing yards, 19 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. That's not that bad. And when there was rumors that the Raiders might have been potentially shipping him at the draft and at the combine and stuff like that, if I was a team that needed a quarterback, obviously his contract is for a guy that's, technically I could see the risk involved. The contract's not particularly great, but I think in terms of a prospect himself, as a player himself in Derek Carr, you could do a lot worse for some of the quarterbacks that are around the league. And I just think maybe a change in scenery would be best. Getting away from John Gruden, they don't seem like they're going to mesh too well, could be best for Derek Carr's career. The rest of the quarterbacks here, though, pretty dog shit. And at least if we're talking about Madden, hopefully he's not cursed again. Derek Carr has been one of the QBs that, for whatever reason, will never perform well in the sim. And if the Oakland's going to be as popular of a team as I think they will be in terms of rebuilds, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to move on from Derek Carr sooner than later. Moving to the backfield here, lots of change. No more beast mode. Marshawn Lynch has announced his retirement. If you have injuries turned off, I think Isaiah Crowell tore his Achilles, so he's actually done for the year. We gave him a 78. So it kind of opens up for the backfield here. We have Doug Martin. I'm going to give Doug Martin a 78. Last year, 800 yards, 4 tutties. You have Jalen Richard last year at 850 yards from scrimmage, only 1 touchdown, but he had 68 receptions, so he's one of the better underrated receiving backs in the league. But when you talk about the Raiders' backfield, if it's not Marshawn Lynch, you want to know what Josh Jacobs is. Their first-round pick out of Alabama. I'm giving him a 77. I could see it being higher, but for the fact that, it was a kind of weak running back class, Josh Jacobs, in terms of pure talent, in my opinion, I think he's a great fit for the Raiders. He's a second-round talent. He's a second-round caliber running back. And, what does that really even mean? Because you see guys that were, 3rd and 4th round, like Kareem Hunt and all these guys, every single year, Alvin Kamara's of the world, that they really, really produce. But if you're talking about elite first-round talent running backs, you need to look more towards like the Saquon Barkley types. And Josh Jacobs, he has a nice skill set, just doesn't have a whole lot of production at Alabama. And then when he ran like a 4.60 at his pro, like that's, he's not an elite athlete, but everything else he does at a very, very high level. So we give him a 77, and that's not a slight at him. I think he will be a very productive running back here in Oakland. But, you got that 86 speed. He's not going to be a burner. You're not going to be able to just take it to the outside every time and get past the linebackers and get into the second level very, very quickly. For him, you're going to more so have to dink and dunk it and try to, bang your way up between the tackles. We'll give him a 77. He'll probably get a 77 quick, and will be most likely the starting running back if the Raiders are your franchise. Fullback here, we got Alec Ingold. They got him as a UDFA, but he was regarded as a top fullback in this year's draft class. So I'm going to give him a 66, and I think he can beat out Keith Smith when it comes time for roster cuts in real life. Moving to the wide receivers, though, they got Antonio Brown. Head case or not, he still is just one hell of a wide receiver. 104 catches, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns last year. He is getting older, but I still firmly believe, I don't know if I could say he's the best wide receiver. I personally think DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver, but given the fact that AB was a cover athlete last year, I think he will get a 99 for sure, and be a very nice playmaker for your Raiders franchise. They got Tyrell Williams coming over from the Chargers. We gave him a 79. He's a great height, weight, speed guy, 6'4", 94 agility, 93 acceleration. You get 91 sprint speed. Last season, he had 41 catches, 650 yards, 5 touchdowns with the Chargers. So that's fringe 80, and I think he might be able to take a bigger step here at Oakland, where the wide receiver room's less crowded. And then beyond that, you just got some depth guys: Ryan Grant, JJ Nelson, great speed, 96 speed, the burner from Arizona. You got Hunter Renfrow. We're actually going to give him a slightly generous 70 because he is, he is what he is. He's going to be a tremendous slot wide receiver. I think early in his career. So we gotta kind of have that rating reflect that. They got Aitman, they got Keelan Doss, one of my favorite UDFAs on the roster as well. Going to the tight ends, we got Luke Wilson, who's kind of been a little bit of a journeyman. Started out in Seattle, I think he was with Detroit. Now he's with the Raiders. He's just solid. But the pick, maybe my favorite pick that the Raiders made last, what was it, April? A month ago, was selecting Foster Moreau out of LSU. I'm giving him a 73. It was a strong tight end class, but no tight end impressed me more at the scouting combine than Foster Moreau. Kind of came in as a blocking specialist from LSU, and then during the drills at the combine, showed off really, really good hands. And then during the athletic testing, was like top 5 in pretty much every category. So losing someone like Jared Cook, that was, arguably the biggest receiver the Raiders had last year, I think a guy like Foster Moreau, sooner than later, will be able to take over that role and become a starter for the Raiders. He's a great underrated player here in Oakland. The rest of the tight ends are not particularly great. Left tackle, Colton Miller. John Gruden came out and said Colton Miller's going to stay at the left side, and they're going to have the man they paid $1 trillion for, it seemed like, in Trent Brown, playing on the right side. So Colton Miller, 73, not a great rookie season, but still there is some potential there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him still have a quick dev trait. Left guard, Denzel Good. I mean, this is just not a great offensive line anymore, especially after they shipped off Kalicia Semele to the Jets. Rodney Hudson's, top 3, top 5 center in football. For my ratings, I think he's the second or third highest center. I think Kelsey's 1, Alex Mack is 2, and Rodney Hudson is 3, but definitely the best playmaker on this offensive line. Gabe Jackson is 79. He's solid. Nothing crazy about that. And then right tackle, Trent Brown, the man they gave an outrageous deal from the New England Patriots for, gifting them a third-round comp pick next season. It was an all right move. I mean, when you looked at the available offensive tackles in this year's free agency, he probably would have been at the top of my board too, and that's not, including Florida Gator bias, but he's an okay tackle right now, if you really have to honestly ask me. And I think what they gave him in terms of money, it's pretty ridiculous, but I hope it all works out. So 80 overall, maybe slightly generous, but he's a good player. Going to the defensive side, all right, we're starting at defensive end. Again, trying to figure out what's going to happen here. No more Khalil Mack. Trying to find a guy that can get some pressure. They were terrible at getting after the quarterback. They have Benson Mayowa, who's been with the Cardinals and I think the Cowboys. He's been solid. He's a guy that can give you, 3, 4, 5 sacks a season as a rotational guy. The pick I like was Max Crosby out of Eastern Michigan. Had a great combine, and I think he will be a part of a healthy rotation as a rookie. Quentin Bell is like the height, weight, speed freak. We already talked about him in the underrated rookie sleepers. Or if that video hasn't dropped yet, it's coming. He had an insane pro day as a defensive end. He's a converted wide receiver from Prairie View. He ran like a 4.38, had 40-some inch vert. It was ridiculous. So he's going to be a defensive end with 91 speed. If you use your defensive lineman like I do, he's going to be incredibly overpowered, and definitely someone in general, if you're not even playing with the Raiders, look to see if you can sweep up Quentin Bell at some point. I think it was a 7th-round pick for the Raiders. He could be a prime candidate to get cut or be found on practice squads. He is going to be very, very overpowered if you're willing to put the time in to develop him. Going to the opposite side, they got Clelin Ferrell, who was their surprise first pick in the first round. We're going to give him a 78. I think he's a very safe prospect. Modest ceiling, but a high floor. He's a guy that's, I honestly think as a rookie, he'd probably give you, 7, 8 sacks. I don't know if he can get the double digits. I wouldn't be surprised, but if I had to guess, given the fact that, it is what it is. He's coming from a Clemson defensive line where they're starting to get that reputation. Is the players on the Clemson defensive line that good individually, or is it because they are all freaks that's what made them look so good? I think it's a little bit of A and B, but much more A. These guys are really, really good players. So I think Ferrell will get a 78 quick. Maybe a star. I'd be a little bit surprised if it's a 78 star, but I think 78 quick. And in real life, my projections would be, I think high single-digit sack tally. They got Arden Key, who was a first-round talent 2 years ago, but then just tanked his stock, went a little bit late. He's still a project. Nice part of a rotation there, but I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see if they can find some sort of healthy combination with all these defensive ends to finally get some pressure on the quarterbacks in real life and in Madden. Look at the defensive tackles. We have Mo Hurst, who we gave an 80 overall, one of the best picks, if not maybe the best value pick last year in the draft. Mo Hurst slipped. He was a first-round talent, top 20 talent, but had some heart issues that pretty much got cleared up and hasn't been an issue since he's been in the league. And last season, he had 30 tackles, 4 sacks, which led the team, which is not good, and 3 tackles for loss. But for a 3 technique, he's one of the best young 3 techniques in the league. So I'm going to give him an 80. I think he'll probably have an 80 quick. They got Hankins here, who's nice veteran at this point, 78. PJ Hall, rounding out the rest of the depth there. Outside linebackers were given to Tahir Whitehead in 80 overall last season, 126 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 9 TFLs. it is what it is. He's just your really productive linebacker that was on a defense that was on the field a lot of the time. But he wasn't really an Achilles heel. He wasn't really a weakness of the defense. So I give him an 80 based upon his stats and the fact that, I didn't watch a whole lot of Raiders play, but I remember when he was a member of the Detroit Lions, he was pretty damn solid. So I assume he was pretty damn solid for the Raiders. And given those numbers, those productions, I feel like 80 is a nice, fair grade for Whitehead. Middle linebackers, I got Brandon Marshall coming over from the Denver Broncos. He's a solid playmaker at this point, getting up there in age just a little bit, but adds a little bit more stability to a linebacking core that hasn't really been all that great for the last couple years. And at right outside linebacker, they brought in Vontaze Burfict, who actually, I was kind of surprised to hear that he was 28, but I'm going to do an 81. Last season, he only played in a couple games, but I think he's one of those players that when he can stay on the field, he's not really injury prone, but it seems like a lot more suspension based. When he's on the field, he can lead the league in tackles. He is just always around the ball, big time, violent type hitter. Actually underrated in coverage. So I'm going to give him an 81 as a starting point. And if he can stay on the field, it actually might jump up a little bit. This is a great buy low kind of get here for the Raiders. I think they brought over the Bengals DC when Gruden took over last season. So he has a lot of familiarity with Vontaze Burfict. I'm pretty sure he's still there. Gunther, right? So, he can maximize Vontaze Burfict. He's been able to get elite production out of him before. And if he can stay on the field, hopefully can get it out of him again. Jumping into the secondary, we're starting with Gareon Conley. I gave him an 81 overall last season. 3 interceptions, 15 pass breakups. Really is, trying to help cement Ohio State as maybe DBU 2. I mean, there's a bunch of teams. Florida State, Florida, LSU, and Ohio State are probably the 4 schools that want to lay claim to DBU. But Ohio State is introducing a lot of high-level corners at the next level, and Gareon Conley looks to be one of those. Beyond that, man, there's just a lot of, guys. They got Trayvon Mullen in the second round. I think he's a nice developmental pick. He'll probably be a 72 quick. Isaiah Johnson had an insane combine, converted wide receiver from Houston. His 71 ratings, much more so because his physical traits are so high. If you're looking at technical ability, he's probably like a 69 in that range, 68, 69. But because he's such a damn good athlete, the Madden ratings algorithm gives him a 71. I'm not going to just nuke him because I think 71 might be slightly high. If it is what it is. So yeah, those would be the 2 players that if you are doing a rebuild, you probably want Conley, Mullen, and Isaiah Johnson to be the corners you develop. At free safety, they brought over Lamarcus Joyner from the Rams. We're going to give him an 84. A little bit of a down year last year with the Rams, 78 tackles, an interception, 3 pass breakups, 3 tackles for loss. I think his base rating was an 87. So based upon those numbers and the fact that, he did look exposed a couple times in those Rams games, I knocked down a couple points, maybe just, chalk it up to a down year when he is on point. He's a converted corner, so he has great coverage ability. He's a willing tackler. I think 84 is a good starting point. Eric Harris gave him a 74. We have Carl Joseph. I gave him a 79 last season. He only played in 8 games, or started in 8 games. He had 48 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, 1 interception. There's that whole, Carl Joseph was on the trade block, and then out of nowhere, Gruden actually started playing him and got great production. So I think Carl Joseph is a very talented safety. Now, the draft pick, using their 3rd first-round pick to select Jonathan Abram of Mississippi State, is a little bit surprising. I don't necessarily know how they're going to try to fit all these guys on the field. Maybe they're going to look at Lamarcus Joyner as a nickel, and then you put Carl Joseph at free and Abram at strong, because Abram's I think Carl Joseph's much more of a playmaker in coverage. He had a bunch of interceptions at West Virginia versus Jonathan Abram, who has coverage ability, but he's a great athlete that likes to hit. So if I had to guess, the best way to utilize these defensive backs would be to do that. Move Carl Joseph to free, have Abram at strong, and Lamarcus Joyner at nickel. But still, lots of speed, good athletes. That's a good problem to have when you're looking at the Raiders roster. Carlson, we're giving him a 78. And Townsend, Gator made 75. So there you go, guys. Those are my predictions for what the Raiders roster could look like in Madden 20. Definitely Raider fans, I want to hear what you guys feel about this. If you agree or disagree with any of the ratings, let me know in the comment section below. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.